Hello babes, you know what time it is. It's time to talk about the best decade in history, the 90s. Why is that the case? Well, yours truly, the Antichrist, was born in 1999, so yes, I do claim that I was a 90s kid. Don't ask me why I carry this air of superiority for having avoided being born in the 2000s, but I just do. What it is not time for is wearing this jacket. Oh my god, this is a real vintage jean jacket from the 90s that my boyfriend got for me, and I love it. I wanted to wear it for this video, but it's like 80 degrees in my room right now, so that's just, it's not gonna happen. Anyway, yes, hi, I am the Antichrist, I'm Satan's favorite daughter, I'm here to talk about horror movies with you all. I do top 10 lists, I do reviews, I do deep dives, so if all that sounds good to you, then maybe consider clicking subscribe, join our little cult, click the like button, click the notification bell so that you never miss our next cult meeting. In today's meeting, we will be sharing our top 10 underrated horror films from the 1990s. The 90s were tough because I did a deep search on my watch list. I tried to watch a lot of the 90s horror movies that I hadn't seen, that very few people had logged on Letterboxd, and it just turns out that a lot of underrated things are underrated for a reason, including a lot of the movies that I'll talk about on my list. Okay, most of them are around like 3-star territory, but I believe that 3-star films make the world go round. I'll let you know the handful of movies that I tried to watch that just didn't work out. They're movies that I think should remain underrated. Unfortunately, the screenplay debut of James Gunn, Tromeo and Juliet, just was not for me. Couldn't get into that one. It severely gave me the ick. I was really bummed about that because I'm a big fan of The Toxic Avenger. I want to get more into trauma stuff, but just not with that one. Another one that I tried to watch that wasn't horrible, honestly, was Pledge Night. This one just didn't interest me. I think that it was watchable, but I started watching it several days ago and then I just completely forgot about it. So I feel like that kind of tells you all you need to know. Lastly, I also tried to watch The Dentist, which had been recommended to me a fair amount. It had been on my watch list for a very long time and I thought, oh, now is the perfect opportunity. I also know that there is a sequel, so I thought, hey, you know, this might be an interesting little pairing to check out. I don't think I even made it 30 minutes into the first movie. If you'll notice, if you follow me on Letterboxd, I have not rated a movie at a 0.5 star, 1 star for, I don't know, it's been like months. Because now I protect my peace. Honestly, if a movie is that poor, then I'm not gonna waste my time on it. Unless it is a brand new release like The Exorcism with Russell Crowe. I gave that one 1.5 stars. Time is precious, don't waste it. But in my top 10, I don't believe that you'll be wasting your time with a single one of these. Some of them are definitely not gonna be for everyone, and they are gonna fall into that like 1-star category for you. For some of these, it will take an appreciation of a very certain kind of stupid to enjoy them. Probably including for my honorable mentions, of which I have 3. The reason why these aren't at the top of my list is because I just feel like too many people have seen them. I don't know if I would actually consider these to be underrated, even though in my eyes, when I look at how many people have logged it on Letterboxd, I think that is not enough. So I thought it worth giving these a shout. First up, we have Arachnophobia. Now, 77,000 people have logged this on Letterboxd, so that is a decent amount of people. I think most horror fans are definitely at least aware of this movie, even if they haven't seen it. It's produced by Spielberg. It definitely has that kind of family fun feeling. I was obsessed with this movie as a kid. I still have the DVD that we got when I was like 5 years old or something. It's about a doctor that moves from the big city to a small town, and they're dealing with a very deadly spider infestation. I thought this one worth mentioning, especially because it seems like spider horror is starting to make a comeback. Last year we got Cobweb, and then this year we have Sting and Infested, so it just felt like a good time to bring that one up. I love Arachnophobia. That one's like a 4.5 star film to me. Next up is Species, which again, 65,000 people logging it on Letterboxd. I was like, let me not put that in my top 10. Some parts of this movie are definitely problematic, but I have decided to reclaim those moments as important text in feminist history. Species had no business being as fun and as good as it is. Basically, there's this lab-grown mutant girl who escapes, and it's about the lab trying to track her down and trap her, but all she wants to do is mate. That's like her whole thing. That's her only motive. And I just really identified with her. I was like, you go get it, girl. Those scientists should leave you alone. You definitely have to be able to look past really terrible 90s CGI. CGI was just particularly terrible in the 90s, so I know that it is tough for some people to stomach. For some people, that just automatically makes a movie bad instead of fun bad. But if you like a fun bad and actually just genuinely fun sequences, then check out Species. My last honorable mention would be Idle Hands from 1999. Came out the year I was born, so naturally it is probably the best movie on this list. This takes place on Halloween night. It follows a stoner whose hand becomes possessed. If you are a fan of Evil Dead 2 and you somehow have never seen this movie, then definitely get on it. Devon Sawa is also fantastic if you love Devon Sawa, which I do. This is one of my favorite roles of his, identifying as a stoner myself. I claim that character as one of the best stoner icons in horror. That dude whose name I can never remember from The Cabin in the Woods, he's got nothing on him. Those are all my honorable mentions, movies that I don't necessarily think are underrated, but they're still movies that in my opinion not enough people have watched. I'm not satisfied with those numbers on Letterboxd. Moving on to my top 10. Now my number 10, it does still have sort of a high amount watched on Letterboxd, but the rest of my list, the other 9, like most of them have less than 20,000 logs on Letterboxd. Some of them have only a couple thousand. So I promise after number 10, we're truly getting into underrated territory. I have to explain sort of my ranking system. My ranking system applies both the amount of people that have viewed these movies and how much I loved them. It's a combination of the two that does not really reflect the actual quality of the films. Maybe it does as we get into like my top 3 because I just couldn't help myself, but this list is just very personal to me. You could probably honestly disregard the actual like ranking of them. So anyway, at number 10, we have A Stir of Echoes starring Kevin Bacon. This one, 48,000 people have logged on Letterboxd, so that's a decent amount. But I think that if you stopped any random Gen Z person on the street and you asked them, hey, do you know the movie Stir of Echoes? They would probably tell you, well, they would take their AirPod out first and they'd be like, what? And then they would be like, no, I don't know what that is. And then you could let them know. You would say, Kevin Bacon plays this guy named Tom Witzke, and in the beginning of the movie, he is put into a hypnotic trance, and then when he wakes up, he realizes he has a psychic connection with his son Jake. He also gets hallucinations of a missing teenage neighbor named Samantha. It's about this mystery unraveling, him digging up all the past and becoming really obsessed with it. It is such an interesting concept. I wish that the execution was better because it's not a fantastic movie. To me, it's like a 3-star. I would revisit it. I do enjoy it. I love Kevin Bacon, obviously. The cast is really good. This is one of those movies that I do think should be remade because they keep remaking all of the good stuff, all the classics, but then there are these movies that it's like, oh, great concept, not a great movie. Those are the ones we should be remaking, but whatever. Up next at number 9, we have a movie called Carnosaur. Only 5.2 thousand people have logged this one on Letterboxd, but this is one that I really feel like more people should know about because it was produced by Roger Corman and it was a precursor to Jurassic Park. That's right, it's about dinosaurs. If you couldn't tell, it's called Carnosaur, duh. When nefarious geneticist Dr. Jane Tiptree plots to wipe out all humans and replace them with flesh-eating dinosaurs, it's up to security guard Doc Smith to stop her. I've personally been getting just a little bit more into Roger Corman's filmography recently. I feel like as far as the general public goes, he is such an unsung hero. People that aren't really in the industry or aren't super big movie fans generally don't really know who he is. And yet he launched the careers of like Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, you know. He basically upheld the entire B-movie industry. Like so much of horror, we have him to thank for. And though I haven't explored too many of the B-movies that he produced, Carnosaur seems like it has to be the cream of the crop. It is so utterly ridiculous. It's not a movie that I'd be chomping at the bit to watch again, but it is a movie that I can appreciate, especially for what they pulled off with just no money. There are some disturbing elements to it that I really don't want to spoil for you, but also I feel bad if you're really unprepared for it, so I don't know, maybe look up like some trigger warnings. It's not what you think, like it's not, I can't say too much, but there's a scene in this movie and I'm not convinced that it's not the weirdest thing that's ever been put to film. So just, you know, just be prepared. I think we can move on to our number 8, which is Demonic Toys. It was surprising to me when I first learned that this came out in 1992 because it feels so 80s. This one, only 7.1 thousand people have logged on Letterboxd, and I find that unbelievable. This movie follows a cop named Judith Gray while she's on a stakeout when she gets trapped inside a warehouse full of toys that have been awakened. They were awakened by some strange child, and of course the toys are murderous. The reason why I'm surprised that more people haven't seen this movie or at least heard of it is because of how popular the Child's Play franchise is. We love a good scary doll, we love a good haunted doll, now we've got Megan too. We've also got Annabelle, we've got Billy the Puppet. You know, James Wan really made sure that my generation would be terrified of dolls. But toys don't get enough love, and this movie is so much fun. When I watched it back in the day, I think that I rated it 2 stars, but I think I still gave it a heart because I was like, this is my kind of garbage. There are really fun and charming practical effects. It's super colorful. It's the type of movie that I so wish we could still get today, but truly movies like that are just not made anymore. I also imagine that if maybe you're like a Gen Xer or a millennial, this movie would feel really nostalgic because I'm sure that some of those toys were very popular in like the late 80s and stuff. It certainly makes me yearn for a time that I didn't even live in, so check it out. This next one my number 7 is so insane. This movie is called Virus, and yes, it stars Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Sutherland, may he rest in peace. And unbelievably, only 16,000 people have logged this on Letterboxd. Also, yes, it came out the year that I was born. This follows the crew of an American tugboat when they board an abandoned Russian research vessel. What do they find on this research vessel but an alien life form? And this alien life form regards the humans as a virus that must be destroyed. When I logged this on Letterboxd, I said, if this is garbage, then call me a goddamn raccoon. This is the kind of good bad movie that I eat it up, I slurp it up. Donald Sutherland is far and away the best thing about this movie, but I'm not gonna spoil why. The practical effects in this are so fun. It is baffling to me why these actors took this gig, but I don't care. I'm so happy that it exists. It also has these really big set pieces because they're on a boat. That's the thing about older, low-budget films, is that there still was a lot of care that went into the effects and the production design, and boy, are there some insane effects in this movie. I feel like saying that and the cast alone are enough of a selling point, so I'm just gonna let you go in blind if you do. At number 6, we have a holiday movie, Jack Frost, from 1997, not to be confused with the Michael Keaton 1998 Jack Frost, which apparently many people have done. So I guess it's not surprising that 28,000 people have logged it on Letterboxd, because a good amount of those people did say, we watched this on accident, which is unfortunate because the other one I believe is a children's movie, so you don't want to mix those two up. In this movie, a notorious serial killer is being driven to his execution when the truck carrying him encounters a bizarre accident that transforms him into a mutant snowman. The sheriff who originally caught the psychopath has remained concerned about his return, and it seems that his fears were well founded. Before long, bodies pile up, all killed in gruesome, wintry ways. Like I said, 3-star films make the world go round, but the first time that I watched it, I think I maybe only gave it like 1.5 stars. I also even have a video, I want to say from December of 2021 or 2022, where I did a whole plot breakdown. Also, I'm drinking beer and I have a beard drawn on in that video. I don't ask why, but I'd recommend giving it a chance, especially maybe being a little bit under the influence and also watching it with friends. If you watch it alone, this movie's meant to be a communal experience. Oh, I also did a watch along for this movie. It might be private now because I can't remember if it got a copyright issue, but if you check my past live streams, I believe that my followers and I also devised some kind of drinking game while we were watching this movie. It's a fun time if you make it a fun time, and if you have lower standards, then it'll be a fun time anyways. There are a few moments of the movie that make me completely belly laugh. I would look up a trigger warning, but as far as that type of violence is concerned, the first time that I watched the movie, it did not even read to me, so I think that you'll be alright. And also, enjoy Shannon Elizabeth. She's there for some reason, so there are a couple of friendly faces in the movie to enjoy too. Moving on to our top 5, Haunted Hippie's top 5 most underrated 90s horror films. At number 5, we have The Fourth Floor. I swear I didn't mean to choose so many movies that came out the year that I was born, but here we have another one. Only 2.4 thousand people have logged this on Letterboxd, okay? Nobody has watched this movie. This is officially the most underrated movie on my list because it has the fewest logs. In The Fourth Floor, a woman inherits a rent-controlled apartment, but is it paranoia? Is it real? Is she being terrorized by one of her neighbors? Yes, as you saw, this stars Juliette Lewis, it stars William Hurt, it stars Shelley Duvall, and nobody has seen it. I understand, I'm pretty sure that this was made for TV, so that's fair. There probably is not very much physical media distribution of this movie. It's obviously not on streaming, like it's just one of those diamonds in the rough that totally fell to the side. Well, maybe I shouldn't say diamond in the rough. This is a 3-star film, like I said, most of these are, but totally worth the watch, and I probably would watch it again someday. Juliette Lewis has been a powerhouse. Okay, Cape Fear, Yellow Jackets, anybody? Oh my god, I forgot that it stars Tobin Bell too. I think that he has like a really small role. That's why I didn't remember that. It's been a while since I watched this movie, but again, just insane cast. And you might not really consider this to be a horror movie. Some people really like to split hairs with horror and thriller, but being a thriller, it has a lot of horror elements. There are a lot of scenes that are intended to scare, so I call it a horror movie. Oh, you know what? Actually, on Letterboxd, it's listed as a mystery thriller horror. So there you go. Don't come at me with your little nitpick picks. This is a poorer imitation of a movie that I cannot think of right now. It gives me a little bit of a 1408 vibe if you've seen that one, even though the concept, the plot is completely different, but the isolation of being trapped in an apartment, him being in the hotel room, they do feel similar to me. Am I thinking of Rosemary's Baby? Maybe. The plot lines are not the same, but they just have really similar kind of isolated feelings to them and mostly take place in apartments. And with the whole mistrust of neighbors and everything, I think I was thinking of Rosemary's Baby. That's probably the one. But I swear there's something else. It's like, I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue. If you guys just want to like throw out movies that are similar conceptually in the comments, maybe one will stick and I'll be like, oh yeah, it was that one. I can't be asked right now, I'm sorry. But as far as made for TV movies go, I think this one is a lot better than it had any right to be. Moving on to number 4, we have Bad Moon. This one I do see people talk about like every once in a while, but then I look on Letterboxd and only 12,000 people have logged it. This 1996 underrated werewolf gem. Yet again, a 3-star movie for me personally. But then I look at other werewolf movies I've watched, including An American Werewolf in London, which I only give 3.5 stars. I know, don't come for me. To make up for that, I did release an entire deep dive on An American Werewolf in London several months ago, so check that out. I pay my respects, alright? In Bad Moon, we follow a man who struggles to contain the curse that he hides within. This follows his last-ditch attempt to free himself. When it looks as if he's losing his battle and endangering all he holds most dear, the family dog Thor is the last hope for this family's survival and the end to his werewolf curse. This movie just has surprisingly good practical effects, shockingly good animal acting. Again, something about low-budget 90s, there just was so much effort poured into them, where nowadays the low-budget stuff just all looks like garbage and like nobody cares and may or may not have been written by AI. It's been too long since I've seen this one. I am definitely due a rewatch. I would love for this movie to have a second life, but when it first came to streaming, I watched it on Screambox, and I don't think that service is doing super hot. They just never really had a good selection. This was one of the few that I found on there and was like, oh my god. It is now streaming on Shudder though, and if you're a true horror head, that is probably one of your only streaming services. It is one of my only streaming services, and maybe it's having more of a second life than I know because you can rate things on Shudder. So I know that not everybody uses Letterboxd, but it is a pretty good indication because I think that it is the social media service for movie nerds. So I do hope that it's getting a lot of love on Shudder, but I also still haven't seen enough people talking about it. Like I said, maybe I've seen 1 or 2 very random people on Twitter give it a shout, but I think this movie deserves to be on any top 10 werewolf movie list, period. At number 3, this one is quite a bit less underrated than most, I would say. And same with my number 2, but we'll get there when we get there. We have Body Bags from 1993. This has been logged 31,000 times. But to me, that number is unacceptable given that this is an anthology directed by John Carpenter and Tobe Hooper. And guess what? David Naughton, Sam Raimi, Wes Craven, Mark Hamill are among some of the names that pop up in this film. Oh, would you look at that? Roger Corman too. But also on screen, you have practical effects from maestro Greg Nicotero. So I just don't understand why more people haven't watched this movie. There are 3 tales contained, each more terrifying than the last. A woman who is stalked by a crazed serial killer, a man who pays the ultimate price for a beautiful head of hair, and a vision of life seen through the eyes of a killer. Yet another 3-star film, as most of these underrated films are. Because once again, they're underrated for a reason, okay? They're not of the quality as our favorite classics, but as a horror fan, I believe that these should be on your list of movies that you have to watch before you die. This movie is just fun. I think the best thing about it, honestly, is the creepy mortician that ties everyone together that's played by John Carpenter himself. What I wouldn't give for that man to have done more acting in his career, oh my god. It's currently streaming on Prime and on Screambox, so give it a go. Be forewarned that the Mark Hamill segment is very, very weird and at times really uncomfortable though. Okay, that's all. Moving on to my number 2, we have Pet Sematary 2. And you might be like, girl, what? Like, it's literally, Pet Sematary is one of the most iconic Stephen King stories of all time. What are you talking about? Only 25,000 people have logged it on Letterboxd, so maybe you know it, but you haven't seen it. And I understand the hesitation. I understand why a lot of people haven't seen this movie. It's a very, very obscure sequel to a movie that, yes, it is a classic in many regards. However, quality-wise, I've never been the biggest Pet Sematary girly, okay? I much prefer the book. But this 1992 gem was also directed by Mary Lambert, who directed the first movie. Starring Edward Furlong and Clancy Brown, this is a rip-roaring sequel, okay? It's insane. The cemetery is up to its old zombie-raising tricks again. This time, the protagonists are Jeff Matthews, whose mother died in a Hollywood stage accident, and Drew Gilbert, a boy coping with an abusive stepfather. This movie is just so much fun. It makes no sense. Clancy Brown has lost his mind in it. And for my fellow Gen Z babes, he voices Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob. Yeah, yep, I wish that Mary Lambert had a bigger career in horror and was given bigger budgets, because what she does with practical effects and gore, she just knows how to direct a disgusting scene. And I think that it's best put on display in this movie. I actually prefer Pet Sematary 2 to the original from 1989. Underrated performance from Edward Furlong, and obviously underrated performance from Clancy Brown, who has the biggest little weirdo, biggest big freak energy in this movie that you've maybe ever seen. Maybe not ever. I would put it up there with that one guy from Men in Black. Forget his name. Oh, I'm giving away too much. Never mind. Now, if you're a huge fan of the original, maybe this one will feel like a spit in the face. I don't know how you'll feel. I don't know your life. But if you're like me and you like the original Pet Sematary, you'll continue to rewatch it, but it's never been a fave, this one might be a pleasant surprise. But shall we move on to what I consider to be the most underrated horror movie of the 1990s? At the number 1 slot, I have chosen The Scooby-Doo Project. Yes, released the same year as The Blair Witch Project in 1999, it is a spoof, and only 15,000 people have logged it on Letterboxd. And I only very recently, like a few weeks ago, became one of those people. Finally watched it for the first time because I was trying to get through a lot of the 90s stuff on my watch list, as we discussed earlier. And after watching it, I just couldn't believe that I had gone my whole life without seeing it, even though I am the same age as the film. This is exactly what it looks and sounds like. It is a spoof of The Blair Witch Project, but obviously with all the Scooby-Doo characters, and it is actually voiced by all the voice actors from the old Scooby-Doo cartoons. They follow a lot of the same plot points as the story, but it's such an accurate spoof not only of The Blair Witch Project, but also of Scooby-Doo. The characters act completely as they would. The humor feels quite a bit more adult than it did in those original cartoons, even though those cartoons back in the day were definitely a lot more mature than what's pumped out now. Like, I look at kids' cartoons now, sorry, tangent, and I'm just like, why are we belittling their intelligence? Like, cartoons today are so bad. Just from like, every once in a while, a clip of one of the newer seasons of SpongeBob will pop up on the timeline, because my generation is like, what the fuck is this? Anyways, so the Scooby-Doo Project, it feels a lot more adult with the humor, but they really toe the line, and it is still really lighthearted and kind of tee-hee. Like, if you want to watch it, if you have kids and want to watch it with them, I think that'd be fine. It also just has no right to be as hilarious as it is. I want to bring up my favorite quotes and my favorite jokes, but I don't want to, because only 15,000 people have logged it, and you need to watch it. It does have a lot of views on YouTube, so Letterboxd is, it's not a one-to-one translation there by any means, but after watching it, I just immediately was like, oh my god, why don't Scooby-Doo spoofs exist for literally every horror movie ever made? They condensed it. It's only 18 minutes long. I think there is an extended version that exists, but they made it like an actual episode of Scooby-Doo, and it was perfect. It was bite-sized. They were able to cram in like all the most important plot points, all the best ones, all the best jokes. Nearly a perfect film, in my opinion. I adored it. That is why I put it at the top of my list. I actually rated it 4.5 stars, but I hope that you enjoyed. What did I miss? What have I not seen yet? What's your top 10? Let me know in the comments. If you want even more content from me and more top 10 lists, I also recently released one that was the top 10 most brutal horror villains. My Maxine and my Longlegs reviews are going to be coming out soon, so I hope that you stick around. If you want even more content from me, you want to check out the backlog, then I also have a second channel where I talk about physical media and where I post my travel vlogs. And if that's still not enough, then join our Patreon, where you get a bonus video every single week, bonus reviews, rankings, all that kind of good stuff. All my social media and everything you need is listed down below, but more than anything, I just hope that you enjoyed this video and that I catch you in the next one. Bye!